What is up, voice heads? This is Ian Temple Campbell. Welcome back to the show. Please like, subscribe, share. What we're going to get into today is 7 different types of rasp and vocal distortion. Now, often these are combined by singers, but we're going to try to isolate these sounds, which may make it not super pleasant and like good sounding singing. So, apologies in advance if that's what you came here for. Actually, a quick note about that. A lot of messages that I got when I was breaking down some of the techniques that Steve Perry uses was like, oh, well, he's using a mixed voice, like mixed voice. Mixed voice is the answer to the question, what makes Steve Perry good? And that's true. But listen, a mixed voice is like what makes any good singing sound good is that they're combining head voice and chest voice. Like 96% of the time, there's some element of a voice mix in there, and that's contributing to what sounds like a professional singer singing professionally and sounding good regardless of genre. And of course that's true in rock and roll, which is what I focus on more than other genres. So anyway, another thing that people can get into is this dangerous? And the answer is it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be dangerous. So if you have some sense of like pedagogy and what good voice technique is, and I urge you to, if you would like to gradually start to learn about these different kinds of rasp and vocal distortion that you can add to your technique. Now, if you don't have that under your belt, some of these techniques could be dangerous and you should probably avoid them for the time being. If you are often finding yourself getting injured vocally and need to go on vocal rest, by all means, skip this video. If you sing and you're kind of like experiencing pain, you want to work on making sure that doesn't happening. Like fatigue is fine if you're, ripping through a 2-hour set, like you're going to be fatigued. But if there's like pain somewhere, if you're having a hard time producing sounds, this is not the video for you. Now, if you already have a good sense of technique to a certain extent, I think that it's safe to begin to explore different types of rasp and vocal distortion. So we're going to start with false vocal cords. False vocal cords are these big kind of meaty flaps around your true vocal cords below them. They're basically, they evolve to like protect your true vocal cords. So like if you get sick, you got to like, get rid of something. You got to, clam up and protect yourself from smoke or whatever. That's what these false vocal cords do. And so with a lot of these techniques, you're taking things that have like evolved to do something else, and then you're asking them to help you sing in a creative fashion, which means that these muscles are not used to being on part of the way, which is what we want them to do. So in other words, something's evolved to like keep you alive. Either it's on and it's working 100%, or it's off and it's just like not, apparent in your singing or speaking or anything. And so what we're asking to do is to add in little bits, right? So as my one of my singing teachers, Justin Stoney, says, singing is the great art of some. Singing is the great art of some. And nowhere is that more true than employing rasp and vocal distortion. So let's talk about the false vocal cords. They are around your true vocal cords below, and they, basically to activate them in a pure sense would be to sound like Cookie Monster like this. A lot of like New York comics, they talk like this, right? That's false vocal cords. Now, you can sing on that, and that's quite safe even by vocal distortion standards, because they're not your true vocal cords. If you injured them, in theory they would just become more false vocal cords. It doesn't affect your actual singing technique. So it can sound very dangerous, but this is actually quite safe, again assuming that you're not doing anything weird or different or wrong from what I just did, right? So, some good singers to look at who do this would be like James Hetfield, John Kay from Steppenwolf, get your motor running, head out on the highway. These are false vocal cords more than anything else that's going on. Okay. Number 2, vocal fry. Vocal fry is potentially dangerous, okay? And that's because you're vocal frying your actual vocal folds. Now, is it a real problem? I mean, people go their whole lives talking like this, you know, like Kim Kardashian, like I feel like Pete Davidson talks like this a lot, you know. You shouldn't talk that way. Like you should talk in a supported way that like people can hear. For whatever reason, the microphone seems to really like vocal fry, and it's safe to use, but I wouldn't go around using it by default. And there's a lot of people who do. It's very trendy. Actually, my theory about that is it started in LA, and it's because they're all dehydrated in LA. They're just walking around in the valley and it's super dry. And then it's just kind of became posh and trendy and cool to talk like this. It drives me up a wall a little bit. But anyway, it's a technique. What does that sound like in singing? Well, like, I mean, Steven Tyler, he uses a lot of vocal fry. So like he'll start a phrase like, I could stay away just to hear you breathing. Right. And as an exercise, this is probably not going to sound super good, but it's an exercise. So, you know, bear with me. But you can actually, vocal fry is like a vocal register as well as a rasp and distortion technique. Like it's both. So, you know, in other words, as you're singing down, la, 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 here I'm in the vocal fry register. I can't hit a real note down. La, la, right? So if you have a hard time finding vocal fry, just go low and keep vibrating until your M1 is like not accessible, and then you'll be in vocal fry, and then you can take this sensation and excuse me, drag that all the way up. Again, not super pleasant to listen to. That is safe. It's safe to do that, as long as you're using it as an exercise, right? Not as a way of replacing how you actually talk, or, you know, if you can't sing clean, that's a problem. But as a choice, it's safe to use vocal fry. And to do that exercise where you're kind of sirening up on it to see how high you can take that vocal fry, that's going to open up a lot of different ways of singing and using that vocal fry technique. And it's also, I believe, going to reinforce your ability to use good technique, because you can't drive air pressure for pitch. It's really going to kind of like, similar to like a lip trill, is going to like force you to really steady out your airflow. And when you're working that kind of like passaggio range, in order to maintain the pitch, you're not going to be able to use additional airflow to push your pitch up. You're going to have to do it all right here with your technique. So it's a good thing to practice. And it's really fun to, you know, I don't want to close my eyes, you know, do all that shit. Next, we've got uvular distortion. All right, this one's a bit of a gimmick, but the uvula is that thing that hangs down, right? The little thing that hangs down, that's the uvula. And so you can use that when you're singing. Now, I wouldn't do this technique on its own, right? It'd just be like, wherever you are, believe. That's not necessarily something that we want to do. I won't stop you, though. And if you do want to do that, you've come to the right place. But anyway, that's something that you could incorporate with different distortions all at the same time. So, you know, as like a little vocal effect of like a sexy thing, like think about like Eartha Kitt going. So this is a good example of a vocal distortion. You can use that. Probably not a go-to one, but hey, maybe invent a new genre. All right. Next up, breath distortion. Okay. Now I was getting a lot of comments of like, what do you mean breath distortion? Is that the same as breathiness? Yes, it's kind of the same as breathiness. However, breath distortion implies that there's a little bit of compression going on at the same time. So, you know, Billie Eilish is very, very breathy. However, she's also very decompressed. So I don't know if I would necessarily call her type of breathiness breath distortion. It'd be just as good to say breathy, you know. But I mean, if you're looking at like Blackie Lawless from Wasp, I mean, he's doing a few different things there. He's kind of all of the aboving it, but definitely using breath distortion. You know, a lot of those 80s guys that kind of like, you know, ballady, bel canto, they're using breath distortion. So, you know, here I go again on my own. You know, valid. It's a bit musical theater sounding. So once you add once you add a little bit of breath distortion in there, a little bit of compression, it starts to get more of that like attitude and character. So like, here I go again on my own. Tommy used to work on the docks. Union's been on strike. He's down on his luck. It's tough. So tough. Now this technique can be a little bit dangerous. So again, like all things rasp and vocal distortion, you want to constantly be able to make sure that you can sing it clean too. And if you can't sing it clean too, and you're just getting used to doing things this way by rote, that could actually contribute to some vocal damage down the way. So you don't want to get damaged, although that is a legitimate type of vocal distortion, which we're going to get to. If you've already damaged your voice, you know, congratulations. This one you have, and you know, it's kind of cool. I don't recommend it, but you know, if it happens, it happens. Next, we've got areoepiglottic distortion. This is like extreme twang. It starts to kick in. So the great way to find twang is to use the word twang. It's kind of the same. It's similar to being nasal, but you can be twangy without nasality and nasal without twangiosity. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So, whoa, sweet child of mine. Whoa, whoa. And I am driving a little bit of breath distortion, but if you could put a camera down my throat, you would actually see the airway kind of go like this, and that there's some areoepiglottic nodes that kind of kick in and start to color the sound. It gives it like a tinny kind of a harsh quality that can be really fun. This one, again, like all things, you want to make sure that you can also, whoa, 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 sweet child of mine, you know, be able to sing it kind of operatic and light, you know, fully breath supported, but then, whoa, 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 sweet child of mine. You want to also, you know, be able to do that one too. Right. Then we've got Valsalva. Okay. Valsalva is a weird one, and this is not one that I'm in any way have a lot of expertise in, but it is a type of vocal distortion. Now, for opera singers, they may know about Valsalva. It's not like, doesn't make a pretty sound. Valsalva is basically when you're like lifting a giant rock. It's the stress response that kicks in when you're lifting something really heavy. It's a tightening that kind of happens all over the instrument. And for the most part, that's your enemy, and you want to relax into, you know, hitting high notes and blah, blah, blah. And then there's Ian Lemmy Kilmister, you know, from Motorhead, who that's kind of like his primary singing technique. I'm sure you've maybe seen him with the microphone up here. You win some, you lose some. It's all the same to me. Again, that's not a great Lemmy impression, but it's not the worst one you'll ever hear. And that is kind of like the primary technique that he's using. It's this overarching stress response from the body and how it affects the voice. This one, of course, like, make sure you can sing everything clean. You don't want to go living your life sounding like Lemmy Kilmister all the time. Which is probably the only way to become a 10 out of 10 at that, is to, like, you know, live the lifestyle. But we at VoiceHead, we do not live the lifestyle. I mean, whatever, you live your best life, but we believe here as a conviction that what somebody can do, we can learn to do. Except for maybe in the case of vocal damage, which is our last one here. You know, if a singer is like almost impossible for a normal person to really get a good mimicking of, there's a good chance that there's some degree of vocal damage there. Um, let's use Bon Scott for example. And this one's a little bit controversial, but what I've heard is that Bon Scott was in a car accident and actually had his larynx physically damaged, which created some kind of asymmetries in his vocal production. And so that one of the reasons that he's got a very unique sound is because his larynx was literally damaged in an incident. Certainly, Janis Joplin has vocal damage, so it's we can approximate it with vocal fry, right? Steven Tyler also has damaged his voice. He's lost his voice a couple of times, and so vocal damage when there's like an extreme level of very effortless rasp, it's like beyond vocal fry, that would be vocal damage. And you can kind of fake the funk a little bit with vocal fry, but at the end of the day, if you want that certain sound, I don't know, get over it, don't damage your voice. But that is how that gets produced. So another thing just to talk about Bon Scott, and this could almost be another type of distortion, would be like back of the tongue. I mean, you could make your bones as a singing teacher doing nothing but talking about back of the tongue. But one of the ways you kind of get the Bon Scott drunken sound is to really kind of relax the back of your tongue like that, right? I'm on a highway to hey, yeah. Now stop saying speed limit, and nobody gonna slow me down. Slow me down. Right, you just get that, do kind of wrong technique. You got a lazy soft palate, and you got a tongue that kind of weird things in the back there. All right. Anyway, this is a video on rasp and vocal distortion. 7, potentially 8 techniques that you can play with safely, and always make sure that you can sing everything clean after you do it with the dirty vocal distortion that we all know and love. So anyway, feel free to make comments, like, share, all that stuff. And really, I'm trusting you out there to be safe and know your own limits. And if you really want to go deep with this stuff, find like a great teacher who can help guide you along to what you want to be able to do. Thank you.